Very excited today to welcome to Match Point Canada someone who I've admired for a long time in the podcast world. This is James Rogers, a podcaster with the Body Serve podcast. He's half of the wonderful, talented hosts over at the Body Serve. We're happy to have him here today to tell us all about his podcast and also about his recent trip to Wimbledon. So, James, thanks for joining us. We mentioned off air, it's long overdue. I'm really happy to have you here today with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really exciting to be here. I've been watching you guys from not too far away, same city pretty much, but yeah, great to be a fellow Canadian tennis podcaster.
Well, there aren't many of us, right? So I feel
No,
like you guys come to mind immediately at the Body Serve. You've been doing your podcast for over 10 years now. So Ben and I kind of look to you for guidance and inspiration. And you know, it's a nice confident feeling that a podcast can last for that long and continue to thrive and to grow. But there aren't a whole lot of Canadian ones that we know. Obviously, The Slice, we talked to Stephen at The Slice as well. But I
mm,
feel like we're a little community, and it's important that we sort of stick up for each other in the overall
yeah.
tennis podcast landscape, because there's a lot of them out there. But certainly yours and ours and The Slice, I feel like we're doing some great things for tennis in our country.
Well, thanks. Thanks so much. It's really kind of you to share those compliments, and I'm really excited to be on your show.
Well,
Finally.
well, finally, and I want to get right to it because I'm a little bit jealous. I'm not going to lie about you guys getting over to Wimbledon recently for the first time. Just a short backstory on myself, but Wimbledon is what hooked me on the sport when I was a kid. I think I might be a little bit older than you. I'm not sure. You got that great hair, so it's tough to say. But I'm in my early 40s and grew up with Stefan Edberg and Boris Becker, Steffi Graf, and Martina Navratilova. And it was every year at Wimbledon because it would coincide with the start of summer break as a kid. And I would just I'd
Mhm.
be glued to the TV. Like my parents could not get me away from Wimbledon when it was on. And so that's the slam that I most want to get to. It hasn't happened yet, but it's certainly, I feel like I'm getting closer to making that jaunt across the ocean. So tell me, for you and for John, uh, did it live up to the expectations and just overall, what was it like going there for the first time?
Yeah, like you, it was kind of my first exposure to tennis, and for me, I started watching tennis, like, late '90s, early 2000s, and that to me was real golden age WTA stuff, so watching the Williams sisters at Wimbledon was the thing that started to hook me. Um, I didn't really know what to expect. We've seen so many images of center court and all the pomp and circumstance about Wimbledon, and it it really does look like that. It it really did live up to what I expected and even more, honestly. I've always been a little skeptical, being American, of kind of the whole British Empire of it. The
Hmm.
just the tradition and maybe a little bit of the stuffiness. I've always loved Wimbledon, but I've always wanted to keep it at a distance for that reason.
Right.
But it's when you're there, it's pretty intoxicating. Like, it's hard not to
It's hard not
just
to kind
fall
of
in
fall
love
in
with the
love with it,
place.
eh? Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
feel that.
yeah.
Um,
And so
and just to clarify, sorry, you guys were there. Did you have a press pass, or were you just there as fans to experience it from that standpoint?
no, we were just there as fans, actually. So we went 2 days, the opening day and day 2, the 2 hottest days, and, we kind of did it on easy mode, I guess. We were really, really lucky that a listener reached out, and they are a volunteer at the tournament, and they were able to purchase tickets, and that's how we got them. So,
Okay, well, that was gonna be
you
my
know
second question: is how hard
Right.
is it to get tickets? So you needed kind of a hookup to get in then.
So, yeah, we were really lucky, and I don't wanna sugarcoat that part of it. We did a whole thing on our episode that we recorded yesterday about, like, how do you actually get to Wimbledon? And it's gotten slightly easier, I would say. I feel like it's always been very mysterious, and they kind of like it that way, but, you, of course, can queue. So you can
Right.
get in the line at maybe some people get there at, like, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And
Camp
if you
out
get there
overnight,
that
kind of.
early, yeah, but, like, fall asleep on the grass. The queue is, like, a 5-minute walk kind of up the road from the main entrance, and so I ran into somebody who he got there at, like, 5 AM and then ended up getting through the gates at 1 PM. So, about 8 hours he
Mhm,
waited.
mhm.
So that's one option. The public ballot has only been around for a few years, but it's really kind of revolutionary for Wimbledon, allowing people from around the world to sign up for this ballot. And if you happen to get called in this lottery, then you have the opportunity to buy tickets like you would for any other slam. Um,
And how far in advance does that happen? Because you wouldn't want to fly over to put in for a ballot and then have it not happen, right?
and no, I think they open the ballot in like around September. So as long as you sign up for a My Wimbledon account, anyone can just enter the public ballot. And you don't have to be from the UK. We've signed up 2 years in a row, and then kind of slowly throughout the year, they'll start to release ballot tickets. So I think, in 2024, we actually heard that we did get the ballot and it was kind of too late. Like we had already planned other trips
Right.
and, like money is spent elsewhere. So we thought we missed our chance last year. But it is proof that it is possible. Like people are getting tickets through the ballot, which is
Yeah,
cool.
I got to have several options here. I want to make it happen, maybe even next year. I've thought about putting in for a press pass, and I don't know if it's changed at Wimbledon, but in the past, they only accepted print media. Like to speak to what you were saying about like
Really?
tradition and everything, they were very old school in that sense. So a podcast certainly wouldn't have made it in. Now, I don't know if they've updated that or not. I mean, the tennis podcast, they're British. I would be hard pressed to see them getting denied access, but I don't know for sure. So
Mhm.
that'll be my first avenue. But then part of me just wants to go and enjoy it as a fan because then you have less expectations and responsibilities. And I think the first time I go, I just want to experience it like in a true kind of pure form, like you guys did, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah,
Um,
we've done both, not at Wimbledon, but
mm,
we've done press at other tournaments, and you really have to act professionally, and you're there to work, and so it does. I mean, it kind of restrains your experience in a way because you really can't fan out, that
yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah. I
would
know
be
you're always
weird.
on, right? Like you're always
Yeah.
on. Although I've seen it at some tournaments, you've had some people in the press ask for autographs or to snap a selfie, and it's so cringy, it's just so
Yeah.
cringy. Um, and you're not supposed to be doing that. You guys ever put in for press pass at the NBO?
No, actually, and I don't know why. We always went to Cincinnati. That was our first tournament that we ever got a credential for,
Right.
and I guess it was just easier there. We had always heard it was easy. They let us in as a podcast. We didn't have a print component, and we never worked for a major publication.
Yeah,
So
you
we
guys
were
are you
doing
guys are completely independent, right?
yeah, yeah, and still are. It's something we're really proud of, and it helps us. I mean, we kind of can say whatever we want, and sometimes that's to our detriment, I'm sure.
No, I think it's to your advantage. I love listening to you guys because it's unfiltered, which is nice. And certainly for Ben and I, when we were with Tennis Canada, which was for 6 years, just ending in December, we had to be very, cognizant and mindful of what we would say, of course, because you're
Yeah.
representing the tennis federation. Now, since January, we're on our own as well. We're independent, which is a little bit of a unsettling feeling at first. And I
Mhm.
think we're still warming up and getting used to the fact that we can say whatever the f we want. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's just different. So we're getting used to it. Um, well, you should definitely try putting in at the NBO at some point, maybe next year, because you guys are both based in Toronto, aren't you?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
And
Yeah.
then
So we
I
always go. We always buy tickets, and we go for a few days, but we've never done like the full kind of. Well, now it's what, 2 weeks experience.
I know
We've never done the full week.
it's going to be grueling this year for sure, but I'm happy to know that I'm going to be seeing you guys there, which is good. And I think I saw
Yeah.
John. I saw yeah, John there last year. And
Mhm.
anyways, looking forward to that. But to get back to the grass court stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, I got a few specific questions here for you now. So, what was your favorite match that you guys got to see while you were there?
Favorite match, it's hard because you see, like, a lot of fragments of a lot of matches, in those early days. I would say a really cool moment for me was seeing Barbara Krejcikova, start center court on day 2 as the defending champion,
Right.
go out, play a first set that was pretty messy, and just, she hasn't played a lot this year, the serve toss was a mess, but just to see her kind of steady herself and think through that match, that was one of the memories that will really stick with me from the tournament. I
And
just think
she won't
she
be
felt
repeating, of course, unfortunately. Yeah.
yeah.
But Wimbledon has been a tough place for the women to have repeat winners. I mean, for the past, I think it's 7 years now, we've had a rotating group of female champions. Where on the men's side, it's been a little bit more consistent, of course. So, and I like that, difference between the two sides. But when you go to a tournament, do you bounce around a lot? Like for me, and I feel like the older I get, it's harder for me to sit still for a long time.
Yeah.
And so unless a match is absolutely riveting, I can't help but kind of bounce around to see what the other courts are like too.
That's exactly how I am. A lot of times I feel like I have limited time here, right? Like I'm paying for my own ticket. I want to get my money's worth. Um, it's nice to watch maybe one full match start to finish just to say that I did. But for the most part, I don't know, I'm getting older too, so I'm uncomfortable in my seat. I feel claustrophobic in the main stadium. And I find that especially early in a tournament, there's so many cool things happening on small outside courts
Hmm.
in Toronto or at Wimbledon. There are really, really talented players playing all over on court, 15 or whatever.
Hmm.
And sometimes you can just walk up and take a seat and get really close to the players. So yeah, I think my attention span has been ruined by TikTok and, being on
Oh
Twitter
yeah,
during
social
tennis matches.
media. Yes, I
Yeah.
hear you. It's
So
funny because for the longest time I was such a proponent of like maintaining best of five set matches on the men's side.
Mm.
And when anyone would suggest otherwise, like I know Ben Roethlisberger for years has been, railing against it. And I'm actually starting to think, I think I might be getting pulled over to the let's try best of three with the men as well, because who the heck has the attention span to do it? Like, I got three young
Mhm.
kids and they don't even have cell phones yet, but to ask them to sit there for that length of time is impossible. I
Oh,
don't know how I did it when I was younger, but certainly today I find that it's just too big of a time commitment. And like you said, you're missing out on other things that are going on that you want to catch as well.
mhm. I don't really have a strong opinion on, like, best of 5, best of 3. I I like best of 5, but like you said, I do find myself kind of getting up and going to do something else for a little while, or you may finish the match and realize, "Oh, the 2nd and 3rd sets were really not good." Or, it allows more time for the players just to have a bad set,
Hmm.
and it's very forgettable, some of
Yeah.
it. But yeah,
Also, I'm at the age where I could no longer play best of five because, just yeah, back, knees, feet, everything. Forget it.
Yeah, that's a
I,
tall order at any age even.
I'm a good best of one set player right now, actually.
Right.
Um, did you catch? So you looked at a lot of matches, you wandered around a bit. Is there any new player that you had never previously watched or really heard much about that stood out and impressed you? Because I always feel like when I go
Mhm.
to a tournament, there's usually a few where I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep an eye on that player because they really, I hadn't seen them before or realized how good they were or what they could do. Anybody like that for you?
Yeah, definitely, and I think this will be a popular choice given this is Match Point Canada, Victoria Mboko.
Oh, yes.
I've been wanting to see for a long time, and of course, I watched her at the French Open, but finally getting to see her in person at Wimbledon, it just I don't know, it felt like you're in on the ground floor of something exciting, and I never wanna place those expectations on a player, but who knows, right? She's a really exciting talent, and to see her take out, Frech in the 1st round
Mm.
right next to Haley Baptiste. They were on adjacent courts.
Is
Uh
that the match you caught, the first round match?
Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
we had wandered over. It was a really hot day, wanted to get out of the main stadium and watched Mboko, and then Baptiste Kirstea were, like, right next door, so you kind of turn your entire body and watch both at the same time. So Mboko is someone, after seeing her in person, I know I'm gonna be following her, you know?
Yeah. It's exciting when they're Canadian too, obviously, for selfish reasons. We wanna see them do well, and, I mean, we've had our hearts broken a few times with the Canadian athletes, or we've maybe made the
Mhm.
mistake of setting our expectations as a nation of tennis fans too high. Look at Bianca Andreescu, for example, and through no fault of her own, but just the, injury after injury that she's sustained since that
Yeah.
fantastic year in 2019. And she still shows us glimpses, but her body just doesn't seem willing to allow that prolonged period of time to settle in and get back to that level of play. So, you're right. And with Vicky, I mean, Ben and I watched her years ago. I think it was 2022. She was 15,
Mhm.
qualifying wild card at the NBO, and we were watching on the grandstand there and just the serve, and we couldn't believe she was only 15 years old. And Carl Hale, the tournament director, told me later, he's like, Mike, keep an eye on her. She's going to be winning this tournament one day. And I'm like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but now look at what she's done this year with, just taking her ranking from outside the top 300 into the top 100, beating or pressuring some of the top players in the game, getting great feedback from Sabalenka, from Coco Gauff. I mean, she's
Yeah.
been getting some pretty high praise from established players. And she's got a great personality too. So I just love how genuine and friendly she is. And I was speaking to her this morning actually about having her
Oh,
come on the
really?
podcast, hopefully in the next couple of days for us too. So, James, you might be the gateway to Vicky and Boko
I
on
know.
Match Squad Canada here.
Tell her we said hi.
I
That's
will.
really
I will.
exciting.
Um, Anyone else, a non-Canadian or anyone on the men's side that also you were impressed with?
I was really surprised by Munar's performance against Bublik. On court 14, like it's hard to see in the court 14. They have these big like green barriers, but
Mm.
catching a few glimpses of that match, just kind of shocked. Well, Bublik was expected to be this big spoiler at Wimbledon, potentially a huge threat to top seeds, and it didn't materialize, obviously. Liked watching Munar. I'm sort of blanking now. I've been following Pechi Pericard for a little
Oh,
while,
yeah, me too. Me
casually,
too.
to see him on number one court versus Taylor Fritz. Eh, I mean,
How much of that did you stay for? Because that went that was a long one.
it was, we made a big mistake and did not stay to the end
Mm.
because then there was the drama about the curfew,
Yes.
which was imposed a little bit earlier than it should have been, I guess. We stayed for the first three sets. So, I mean, they went pretty quickly, and Giovanni's game isn't as complete as it needs to be yet, but, I mean, seeing Taylor Fritz getting a racket on serves that were 152 miles per hour, that was
That's insane.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wimbledon to me has always also been about I don't want to call them serve bots because I think it's kind of disrespectful in some way, but like, the big servers. And when I was growing up, it was Goran Ivanisevic, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mark Philippoussis. Obviously, Sampras was so consistent with his serve. Nowadays, I feel like maybe we don't see the serve as impactful on grass as it used to be, although still nobody's going to want to stare down a 150-mile-an-hour bomb like that. But yeah, just triggering memories from my younger days and things that made me fall in love with Wimbledon. Um,
yeah.
I want to ask you a few. I got about 5 or 6 things here. I'm gonna throw them out kind of rapid fire.
Okay,
Tell me if they're overrated or underrated, and if you want to
okay.
throw in a little bit of a blurb, why. Let's start with the all white clothing.
I would say overrated. I need a little pop of color.
Mm.
You know, it's a nice tradition, but I needed something.
Time for them to allow maybe a little bit of.
Yeah, just a few accents.
Okay. How about the curfews?
Curfew, uh, mm, overrated. I don't mind the curfew, but I wish it was imposed, consistently.
Right. Because what is it? Is it 10:30 p.m.? Is it
It's allegedly, it's 11,
right?
but it seems like tournament referees, make, like, confusing decisions, you know?
Yeah, at their own discretion. Now this one, I know you guys tried it because I saw, I think, on your Instagram, strawberries and cream.
Overrated.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just
The
the price
strawberries,
or the
and no, actually, the price was it was very cheap, so very affordable. Um, I just didn't really get it. It was like liquid dairy cream poured over strawberries.
Mhm.
It wasn't for me. But the
Okay.
strawberries themselves were gorgeous,
Okay.
like the most perfect strawberries.
I could do like strawberries and ice cream. I wonder if they have that option.
I don't know, not at
No.
that booth. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, how about this beverage? And I've never tried it myself. And maybe you have. I'm not sure. Pims.
hmm Uh, I would say properly rated or maybe even underrated.
Okay.
I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I don't wanna be totally negative. I feel like I've overrated everything here.
No, but fair. Hey, that's fair.
Yeah, Pimm's is possibly underrated. It's very good.
Yeah. The Royal Box. I feel like I know where you're going to go with this one, just judging on how you spoke earlier with the whole
Right.
tradition and things that are a little stale. But go ahead.
Overrated.
Yes.
Yeah,
Did
and
you
I don't
see?
need to
Did you see?
expand, right?
Yeah. Was the box full? Are they using the box? I mean, are the Royals even there?
Didn't see any royals. I saw Craig Tiley. I saw like Kate Blanchett and Rebel Wilson were sitting next to each other on day two. It was pretty full. And in the press room, you can get like a little sheet of who's expected to be in the box that day. So we weren't actually in the press room, but somebody snuck us a sneak peek of who was
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
Now, your friend there on the inside couldn't get you into the royal box. I guess that would have been too big of a of an
No,
ask.
it's a
Yeah,
pretty big leap, you
I'll
know.
bet. I'll bet. How about grass court tennis, just overall from a spectator's perspective?
Underrated. I love grass, and I think I don't know, I feel like the fans, at least like the Twitter community, is kind of down on grass lately.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's just such a short season. I
Mm.
wish we had a little bit more of it, but it would take away a little bit of its luster, of its allure, I think, too, if that
Yeah.
happened. Did it seem fast to you, the grass? Because I don't know if you were there for Chapeau's match, but towards the end at the changeover, he was just kind of like having a little chit chat with his therapist almost with the chair umpire talking about how it was basically like playing on a clay court.
Yeah.
What do you think? Was that just Chapeau
Uh,
kind of pissed that he was losing letting a match slip away or what?
that's funny because I feel like players are sometimes all over the map on court speeds. Like you'll get a million different opinions. I don't think it was exceptionally fast. And I think the weather had something to do with it. I know players are complaining about the balls as well, like fluffing up too soon. Um, the bounce is killer, right? I would say like on the second or third ball in a rally, the ball is just like dead.
Mm.
It's dropping
Super low,
a few, yeah. Um, we were in Berlin a few years ago, and Berlin felt a lot faster to me.
just as a grass court to grass court
Yeah,
comparison.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but still slick, like still fast. I don't think it's a clay court. I think maybe he was frustrated, you know.
Oh, Chapeau, if you could
Yeah.
just take a deep breath sometimes, eh?
So talented, you know.
Yeah. What's your assessment overall of the Canadians on grass this year? I mean, we've got Gabby Dabrowski still going. I haven't looked at the updated scores, but Gabby's still going, which is no surprise. Her and Aaron have been
Mhm.
terrific together on any surface. But unfortunately for the singles players, I think we got a lot of optimism with Vicky, as you mentioned. I think Gabriel Diallo got as much out of his Wimbledon experience as we could have
Totally.
hoped, pushing Taylor Fritz as well as he did. But then Felix, Dennis, Layla, a little underwhelming. What's your overall sort of vibe for them and the grass court swing here?
Yeah, Diallo had such an exciting run here. I mean, of course, it was only 2 matches, but to push Taylor like that was really cool. I got to see some of his match, in the first round against Altmaier.
Nice.
Uh, Felix, I've been a Felix fan for many years. I don't know where we are.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going,
Feels kind of stuck, right?
yeah, and he
Hmm.
had a great start to the year, he won 2 titles, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, but I still had this feeling in the back of my mind, I don't know if this is gonna continue, like, this feels like a Felix thing, um, but there are people coming up behind them as well, right? There's Carson Branstein,
Mm.
who I saw against Sabalenka that first day. Of
Yeah,
course, there's Vicky.
what a first round match to draw when you get into your first main draw of a slam.
I know. She's had some luck she's had over the
Mm.
past few tournaments, like
Yeah.
drawing number 1 seeds, but she wasn't cowed by the moment at
Mm.
all. Like she felt like she looked like she felt she belonged there, which
And she
was
was
really cool.
certainly hanging in that second set, I think, right? Which was
Mhm.
like 5-5 up until the break.
Yeah, and, booming, like, serves in the high 110s.
Yes.
Great stuff. So her like, Carson, Vicky, there's I don't know a lot about like the tennis system in Canada, like the training system or how they develop players, but they seem to be doing something really right over the past decade.
Yeah, it's exciting to
So
know that
very
there's
optimistic.
another wave coming up, but you still want to see more like from that Felix, Dennis, Bianca, if she can get healthy, and Layla, who are still young, who are in that 23 to 25 range. Um,
Yeah,
I'm feeling a little bit of a frustration that it's like, okay, we want to see more. Uh,
right.
and look, there's tons of tennis players that are not being any more consistent than the four I just named. So let's be honest, unless you're Sinner or Alcaraz or Sabalenka or Goff, the inconsistencies are something that everyone's dealing with. But I think we've been teased, with some of the success we've had, even at the international level when they get into that team competition, winning on both the men's side and the women's side. But we just want to see it at those majors and get one of them or two of them into that second week, and it's just not happening yet this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, given like the peak of Bianca's talent, what we've seen her do against Serena and against Kerber, in that 2019 season, I it's maybe a little too much pressure on her to, it's almost like a sophomore slump. It's scary to know you did that when you were so young. Can I ever do it again?
Right.
Um, I find Bianca such an interesting personality that I really want her back even more than for her tennis.
Mm.
I just find like she's always up to something interesting in interviews. I don't know, she just feels different, right? There's a star quality and there's a thoughtfulness that you don't always see
Yeah.
across
She she
events.
she gives a lot, both of herself in those interviews and revealing a lot. Like she's very open about her mental health challenges a few
Yeah.
years ago before that was, I don't want to say like the popular thing to do, but before more have come out and followed suit. And she's
Mhm.
also been very supportive of young women starting on the WTA tour and how she's there to be there as like a sounding board for players like Emma Raducanu and Mira Andreeva. And there's not a lot of pros that say, "Hey, if you're having a tough go, I'm here for you." It's such an
Yeah.
individualistic sport where it's a little cutthroat at times. So I do love that about Bianca as well. Hey, just as we're winding down a little bit here,
Mhm.
I'm gonna put you on the spot in a couple minutes. So I'm just planting this seed in your mind that I am gonna ask you for your pick, men's and women's singles winners at Wimbledon here, and gonna ask you if it's changed pre-tournament because one of mine is out already. So many
Mhm.
upsets. But tell us a little bit about the Body Serve, about your podcast, about where people can find it, and maybe what they'll expect if they listen to an episode. Because I'll be, upfront. It's certainly very different from what Ben and I do, and I love that
Okay.
about you guys. But share a little bit about what the Body Serve is like.
Sure. Thanks. So my partner Jonathan and I started the Body Serve at home in 2015. So it was January. It was the beginning of that Serena Slam 2.0 season. Um, we wanted to, we're not tennis analysts, right? We're not really talking about the X's and O's and technique. We wanted to talk about tennis from like a cultural perspective, kind of tennis in the real world. Talk about power, money, politics, race, class, like and pop culture, right? A lot of it is pretty lighthearted. We love mess, like love a little bit of drama on tennis. But there's, we can be serious when necessary. Both of us kind of came from, I studied media studies. Jonathan was in sport history. So we have it's kind of like this marriage of our two interests in the way that we cover the sport. So if you do listen, like you said, we're very different from your podcast. We're different from the tennis podcast and
Yes.
a lot of the big ones. If you listen, you'll probably disagree with a lot of what we say, which is totally fine. Uh, and I hope that's tolerable. But we have fun and try to look at tennis from a little bit of like an outsider's perspective.
And you guys have grown, I would imagine, a lot over the years you've been doing it. Like I'm not looking for specific numbers, but have you
Mhm.
found since you started in 2015, and God, I know what it's like to get a podcast off the ground.
Right.
Have you seen pretty sizable growth? I know you guys have a really strong and loving fan base for sure.
Yeah, we weren't sure to what to expect early on, and we started, with a few hundred listens in those early episodes. But because we had this community on Tennis Twitter, it was able to grow pretty quickly. Tennis is still a very small community.
Hmm.
Um, and so the numbers are not massive, but we're both pretty happy with how the trajectory has gone like over the past decade and the opportunities it's afforded us. It was really beyond our expectations.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be going to Wimbledon or even the US Open. I don't know. For some reason I thought those were out of reach, but
Hmm.
yeah, just the community it's helped create has been really cool.
Well, you guys have been inspiring to us, and now as we're independent, we sort of look to you, and I'll probably be bugging you guys a little bit about some tips to keep things
Yeah,
going for us.
totally.
But I think it's important that we're all out here doing this because there's obviously a desire for it. Specifically, Canadian tennis fans, I think, love to hear from some of their own. And like you said, it's a little niche, the sport, but it's important that there's people that are sharing the highlights of these athletes and the sport where it's going, and calling out the areas of the sport where they're not doing enough. And certainly over the years, there's been plenty of that, which again, when we were under the Tennis Canada banner, it was a little bit like, we can't really go too close to that, son. But I love listening to your podcast because you can tackle those head on, and good on you for doing so.
Thanks. Thanks. That's really kind. Yeah, because we are independent, we talk about the things that we care about, right? We talk about the abuse allegations against Alexander Zverev. We covered extensively. When Serena was playing, we talked a lot about, her return to Indian Wells and the role that racism played in just the way that Venus and Serena came up in the sport. Those are like a few examples of some
Right.
of the heavier issues we
Yes.
sometimes get into.
God, that Zverev one. I mean, certainly I had to tiptoe around it, but it was pretty clear to anyone listening, not a fan of this guy.
Right.
Regardless of that, just off the court, even in my interactions with him or seeing him in press, just a jerk, just a jerk.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it was hard to root for him once I saw him in press in Cincinnati. Just not very nice.
Not warm and fuzzy. Um, all right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'll tell you my Wimbledon picks beforehand. I went with Coco
Okay.
Gauff, and I do think she's gonna win Wimbledon at some point, but clearly still needs some work to do there on the grass. And on the men's side, I went with Novak Djokovic actually, because I felt like, much like he put all of his energy into winning the Olympics last year, I feel like this Wimbledon is so important and meaningful to him, to tie Federer with 8 to get his 25th slam. So I went with him. I went on a limb a little bit with him. So he's still in there. Who did you maybe pick initially, and who are you calling now to be standing on Sunday?
I was so close to picking Djokovic, and I totally get why you did. At the beginning of the tournament, I picked Alcaraz, and I still am with him.
Okay, that's who
Just
Ben
the
went
fact
with. Yeah.
that, yeah, he's making things more difficult probably than they need to be, but I'm still going with Alcaraz. Um, on the women's side, do you want me to jump in or do you wanna go
Yeah,
first?
go for
Okay.
it.
I picked originally I picked Madison Keys as
Good
my
choice.
champion.
Yep.
Um, However, that obviously didn't work out. At this point, I think Sabalenka will win her first.
Nice. I mean, she's got the game for it for sure. That big serve, and she's got the, like, you can just see how dialed in she is. Um, I mean, I'm sticking with Djokovic, obviously. On the women's side, I feel like, yeah, it would probably be the right choice and an easier choice for me to go along with Sabalenka as well. But as I'm looking at the draw, I mean, maybe it'll be someone super surprising. That's possible too.
Mhm.
Um, a couple that I have sort of an affinity towards are Belinda Bencic, who she's always made herself available to the podcast on a yearly basis for the last 6 or 7
Okay.
years. So definitely like her, and she is more of a veteran player right now, and I think one of the more talented players to have not won a major on the women's side. So I'd like to throw a little support her way. And Amanda Nisimova, also someone who both Ben and I have had on the podcast before. And, just with the mental health issues that she went through and now being back on the tour and doing so well. I mean, look at what she did in Toronto last year, making the finals. I'd like to, yeah, her or Bencic, I'd be happy to see it. But I think that's a little bit more talking from my heart right now than my head. But we'll see. We got a week. We got a week to go. Are you watching now that you're back in Toronto? You watching on TV? You still?
Yeah. Was watching pretty much all day yesterday. When we were in London, not at the tennis, it's really hard to keep up, because you wanna do touristy things as well. But
Course.
yeah, now we're fully back, fully committed.
Right on. Well, hey, look, enjoy the rest of the fortnight. Thank you for taking the time. I'm so glad that finally we got at least one of you from the Body Serve on Matchpoint Canada, and hopefully this leads to further appearances. So tell John that he's next, okay?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and I know we'll be seeing you at the National Bank Open, so that'll be fun. We'll catch up, have a drink, and share some stuff that maybe we couldn't share on air as well.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All right, cheers, James. Talk soon.
Thank you guys so much for watching us at Matchpoint Canada. If you like our work, follow along, hit the subscribe button below.